that space as long as possible. Our maintenance areas typically consist of 2 to 3 maintenance bays as well as a welding bay. This is where our mechanics will fix trucks as they come in so that we can get them turned around and back out on the road as quickly as possible. Our maintenance bays always include an overhead bridge crane, which vary between 3 and 5 tons on what the equipment that they're going to be using the cranes for. Oftentimes these spaces will include the mechanic's office, we'll have a parts room area, we'll have an oil room, and then we include vehicle lift equipment, exhaust equipment, and anything else that the mechanics may need to service the vehicles for these facilities. So one of the things that we're doing, and you could see from the previous aerial images, is the setup was a little bit different on the models. We are looking to come up with more coherent models that meet our operational needs, looking at the relationships between the different zones, between the office area, the truck storage, the maintenance, and the wash bay of our main building. We do want to make sure that we have ease for our mechanics to get back and forth to the office areas, as well as making sure that they can get to the truck storage areas. As you can tell in this slide, we have the major difference is the maintenance bays. This one, it is angled so that we have a direct pull-through maintenance bay that can get into the truck storage. That would allow us, if we have a vehicle that's broken down, we're waiting on parts, that we could potentially tow it into the truck storage and still have it under roof. There are some counties and districts that actually prefer this model better. It allows for a lot more wall space for their equipment and tools. So they would have a pull-in for the maintenance area and then can pull back out. But we do have some access so that they can walk. If they absolutely need to get some kind of equipment in here, they're able to do so by a walkway. So, a lot of things that we look at in conjunction with these layouts is the internal configuration of how we want to operate within the building. But we do take into site considerations on what we're going to have to do for traffic patterns around this building and what we have to do for security of the site as well as this individual building. We're looking at that. Our cold storage structure, I mentioned before that we were looking at pole buildings. We are looking more at fabric structures now. For the price of a fabric structure, we can drastically increase the square footage that we can store in those cold storage buildings. We are looking to minimize the foundations and kind of maximize the size of the building. One of the ways that we're doing that is some of the facilities we're taking the fabric all the way down to the ground and having some kind of type of barrier inside for protection. This one has, as you can tell, a raised concrete wall here, but in some instances we are looking at guardrails, raised sidewalks, whatever we need to make sure that what they're going to store in there will be safely stored and we will not have problems with the perimeter of the building. This particular building here is fully enclosed. It does have overhead doors at either end. Some of our cold storage buildings, depending on our needs and where the prevailing winds are, we are doing 3-sided structures as well. It really depends on where our site is and will it meet our needs for those particular sites. And that's something that we'll be talking about as we get into the design and the program of requirements for each of these projects. Our above ground fuel tank storage. We look at doing split fuel tanks for unleaded and diesel fuel. We usually house anywhere from 6,000 to 10,000 gallons of fuel at each of our sites. They would contain 2 dispensers with 2 dual nozzles on them. We do have added protection for bollards. We include lighting for security, and we have a fuel master system, which is where we use our card reader swipes so that we can access access fuel and maintain the data for how much fuel usage we're using as an agency. And the last component that is really important to this area is an oil water separator with a shutoff. So if we have a spill there, we can keep it contained to the fuel island rather than impacting the rest of our facility site. Salt storage. This is one that ODOT's been really reviewing over the last 4 or 5 years on how much salt we really should be storing, because some winters we'll have a harsh winter and other ones will be very mild. So we are looking at our 5-year average and trying to hold 100% of our salt needs on our facilities. A lot of times if you have a harsh winter, you have problems getting salt deliveries in the middle of the winter, so we're trying to house more on our site. The other thing is if we have a harsh winter, ODOT is one that will help assist any local municipalities, towns, counties cover their salting needs. So we want to make sure that we have enough to cover the entire state and hit all the necessary roadways that we have. We are looking at a couple different models for our salt storage. We are doing the 12-foot high concrete walls like you can see here with a tension fabric structure above. But we have some that are hooped like this one, and then we're also looking at some gabled facilities. It really depends on what the manufacturer that it's selected on those projects uses. But we've found that both of them have been beneficial meeting our needs. This is a picture of our material storage building. This is one that we store gravel, sand, cold patch material, whatever we need to maintain the roads, particularly in the summer months on our sites. This particular one has full height 12-foot walls. We have been looking and reviewing different options with this, reducing the height of the interior walls. We've also done some with lock blocks so that we have flexibility in where we can move those walls. So if they want to have more sand on site one year and more gravel another year, they're able to do that and without that drastically impacting the building or the site. This is a picture of our brine equipment and calcium. This little building here is our brine maker. Basically, it's got a hopper inside of it. That's where they dump salt in it. It's mixed with water and filled into the trucks whenever you're out on the highways before a major snowstorm or a colder weather event. You'll see the lines down the road. That's the liquid that they're putting down on the roads to prevent freezing and icing over before snow or rain would hit the water or hit the road. Sorry. We also have spray arms for calcium, similar capabilities to what Brine can do. Some facilities are experimenting with beet juice and different materials that they can use. Hence the reason we have multiple storage tanks so that they're able to mix them in advance. When they need them, they can load their trucks and be out on the road pretty quickly. We do see variations of this configuration and what is needed across the state. Some counties and districts will have more automated systems that they can go through much quicker because they're going to be putting more liquid brine on the roads than other areas of the state, and it really depends on the weather patterns in those particular areas. But ODOT is looking at doing more liquid because it helps preserve how much salt we have, and it's actually less in cost for us. This is one of the things that we're looking at doing with our kit of parts. The projects that we're looking at here are fairly new. The top one is still under construction. But what we're looking at doing is taking and combining our brine and calcium, our material storage, and our salt. We're not seeing an overall cost savings by doing this. It costs about the same as doing those in 3 separate components. But there are advantages for us to do because we would have just one building that we would be maintaining. It is much smaller footprint that it would be putting on the site, and it allows us to keep our brine equipment, which would be housed right here, and then on this one it's housed over here. Allows us to keep our brine equipment under roof so that it's easier to service and maintain when we're having bad weather. So that's kind of a snapshot of all of our kit of parts. We are looking to standardize all of our building requirements and incorporate best practices that will help us reduce our overall first cost on all of our projects. And it will also assist in minimizing our maintenance requirements and costs for future whenever we can look at that. We will be continuing to develop our guideline specifications and drawings that will be provided to each of the selected design teams for this group of projects. I will stress that these are not all inclusive, but it does include our sacred cows, our requirements, our must-haves that we have to have on every one of our projects. Many of our requirements are high quality. We do request heavy-duty elements, basically because our operational needs require those. We do work with harsh materials and heavy-duty equipment. Through the development of our guidelines, our statewide facilities group really has encouraged dialogues more with our agencies, counties, and districts, but we are focusing on their needs. A lot of times when people see $100 million, that's a lot of money, they're asking for their wants. We're trying to get them to hone in and make sure that they're only asking for what their needs are. As we do move forward with our upcoming projects, my office will be working to ensure that ODOT Does include all of our agency stakeholders in all the conversations for design and construction, but we really will be stressing and providing only one ODOT voice when we're relaying information, particularly to the design teams on the project. I know we've had a little bit of problems with that in the past, but we're working to hone in on this, and I hope that having these guidelines will help better that process. So on here, I listed a few examples of things that we're looking to include in our guidelines. We do have standards on what we need for the fuel, and I mentioned we have the oil water interceptor, and we want to make sure that we can shut that off if we have an oil spill. We have requirements for signing and protection of that equipment, so that will be included in there. We have specific equipment, our vehicle lifts, what equipment we're using for our pressure washers within our wash bay. All of that kind of stuff will be spelled out and included within our guidelines here. One piece that we did not include in our guidelines before that we are looking this time around, and I think this will help aid our counties and districts on maintaining the projects stay under budget and schedule, is looking at a good, better, best option. So there might be a high-tech piece of equipment that they want. They want the higher-end, automatic, more expensive brine system. So they're going to have to offset that cost with whether it's finishes within the office area or equipment that they're putting in the maintenance bays. So when we're going through the program of requirements, this will be a good tool that will both help ODOT as well as the design team make sure that we're all on the same page on what our projects require and entail. So, everybody really knows that our roadway infrastructure really has changed drastically over the last 50 years, and our facilities replacement cycle is really to help ensure that our agency can maintain the services that we do on our transportation roads. And as you have probably deduced, ODOT's vertical projects are really not sexy, artistic works of architecture. They really are functional ones. It is imperative that we have the best quality and design for these projects, and then we follow through and make sure that we have that quality during construction to ensure that they really can withstand time and the harshness of what our operational needs for our agency are. So we really do need your assistance to help our upcoming projects be a success, and we really look forward to actually having more groundbreaking ceremonies and ribbon cutting ceremonies for our facilities. This is something that is huge for our organization, and we really look forward to working with you guys on these. So I guess I'll open it up to see if you guys have any questions. I know I went through a lot there. Anybody have any? Go ahead.
So just to clarify, all of these counties currently have facilities, and we're just building new ones, usually in different locations?
The question,
Counties don't have facilities currently.
the question was how many of these facilities do have current facilities and we're replacing new. There's 12 facilities that we're building. 4 of them are going to be on existing sites. So we will be looking at temporary lease sites for 4 of them. And those particular sites will have milestones on them, particularly with snow removal. So we will have to have access to a new salt building and or the existing one if we're looking at a demolition plan to coordinate that our operations are functional in those 4 particular sites. The other sites will be brand new sites, and they will be a little smoother because we won't have to deal with that temporary milestone in there. So, excellent question. Any other questions?
Can you touch a little bit about the subcontracting opportunities? I know that this project has an edge of 5%.
And I think, Jeff, are you hitting on that, or Ned?
We'll touch it.
Yep.
In the state of
Okay. Yeah, the question was regarding edge requirements for the project for subcontractors, and Jeff Kring will hit on that in just a few moments. Any other questions? Well, I thank you guys for your time. I will be available if you have any other questions, as well as Terry, Tyler, and Rick after today's discussion.
Thank you. So let's talk about the selection process and how this is going to go with all this work that we're going to be biting off and chewing. Jeff's going to go, after I get done with this, he's going to talk about how to fill out the 330s and stuff, but I'm going to jump in right and say you got the 330s done, and you're going to submit them to the State of Ohio OFCC person via email as a PDF. Your statements of qualifications will be evaluated both by ODOT and OFCC staff. using the rating form that's attached to it on the back. That's the last sheet of the RFQ that you got this morning, which will show you how we're assigning points for your qualifications. There will be 4 raters, 2 from OFCC and 2 from ODOT. The 2 from OFCC I know will not be involved with the ODOT projects. I would assume the raters that you guys are going to have will be involved with the vertical construction. Rick says yes. The scores for each proposer, there will be 4 scores because of 4 raters. Those 4 scores will be combined into 1 score. That score will show you where you rate among all of the firms that have submitted 330s. The top 16 are going to be shortlisted. Now, if there are ties with 16, 17, and 18, we will take it all the way down to all the ones that tie with the last position. So if we've got 1 through 16 and a couple extra ones that are the same score as 16, we'll be doing 18, 19, or 20 interviews out of that short list. Yes, out of that short list, okay? Our intent, again, is to execute 12 contracts, 1 for each project. However, circumstances may be such that it is beneficial, and I'm not moving my slides forward, beneficial to combine some projects with 1 firm, even though they will be 2 separate contracts. And please remember that this is most qualified selection, and it is not a best value, i.e. low bidder. So we're looking for the best qualified firms to rise to the top based on your 330 qualifications and the scoring thereof. We will then make offers to all of you based on that short list, and I'll explain that a little later how that's going to go on. You have the opportunity to decline the offer because either you're not interested in it any longer, the project is not what you're interested in, or it's not in location. We will assign locations to these, and I'll talk about that later also. But then you will be moved to the bottom of the short list and will not come up until we get through all the other offers that have been made and other ones that have been outside the 12. So just a heads up, you can decline it, just put you at the bottom of the list. It is our intent to have the selection process completed by mid-January. In other words, we're looking at a date mid-January. We're going to send out to all of you what our first offers are to your firms, and I'll talk about that later also, but that'll give you information about what that offer is. However, the actual execution of the AE agreements will be on projects as they are launched with respect to our overall construction schedule. Any questions on that brief piece of how it's going to be done? Ken?
You said the offers will be made by mid-January, but the information that was handed out indicated the interviews were going to be at the end of January. Is that going to be changed?
Well, good point. When I said here, yeah, I mean, I guess maybe we change that. We'll have short list in middle of January. Okay, thanks. Millie, I guess we changed that? Sorry about that. Okay, good point. Yeah. So the short list will be by the middle of January.
Thanks for clarifying.
Okay. Yeah, and then we'll send out the interviews, notifications and stuff. Thanks. Thanks for catching that. Any other questions? Especially with my calendar. All right, I'd like to introduce Jeff Kring. He's going to talk about how to fill in the 330s and how to get your qualifications expressed to us in the best manner. Jeff?
Good morning. Some of you may have seen this presentation before if you made it to the OFCC conference. Like Carrie said, there's some new faces in the room and I guess some old faces. I guess from our office, we'd say Keith Dahl's a new face, and we'd say Ned's an old face.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the 330, the statement of qualifications that you guys are going to submit based on the request for qualifications that you have in your hands. The things we're going to go over as I speak here will be this sample of a request for qualifications. We have a request for qualifications rating rubric that's on our website, the statement of qualifications that you'll actually fill out, and then the selection rating form, like Ned mentioned, is at the end of this RFQ. So the RFQ, it's actually kind of nice to have the RFQ in hand as I'm talking about this. Maybe we can help point out where some of the items we'll be talking about show up on this page here. But the RFQs are posted on our OFCC website. For future and other projects, you do have the ability to contact our office and get on a listing to get automatic email notifications for any other requests for qualifications that may come out for projects throughout the state. I mentioned the rating rubric. This is on our website again, basically used by the scoring teams as kind of a cheat sheet to understand how to decipher the material that comes in your statement of qualifications and what types of things we use to evaluate the scores as they come in. I guess if I was in your shoes, I think it would be valuable to you guys as well to be able to use that as a tool to see how we look at things. The statement of qualifications, the 330 form that you're actually going to fill out, make sure you take a real good look at this when you pull that off the website to start filling it in. The first 10 pages are related to the instructions on how to fill that form out. Read those instructions thoroughly and make sure you follow those instructions. It'll really guide you through the form. I know a lot of you have done a lot of these. The forms have changed a little bit through the years. Just make sure that you're reading those instructions and getting your best and accurate information in here. As noted here in blue, I think sometimes we feel like this is probably the section of the 330 form that is the most ignored based on some of the information that we're seeing come forth. So the statement of qualifications form, again, the F-110-330, we use it for all the selections. I know in this case, this will be for AE design services selections, but